What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Welcome to the new year. It is 2024, ladies and gentlemen. You are here at the Unfiltered Experience with myself, Christopher Rausch, and my beautiful brother from another mother who I'm looking forward to catching up with. What's up, Mr. Scott David Goyette? How are you doing, beautiful?
What's up, buddy?
What's up? You sound like Skipper from fucking Gilligan's. What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
How you doing, little fella?
What's up, little fella? How are you?
Hey, is that what you thought? No. Let's not start off with the mind in the gutter stuff. Let's not start off with that. You went to fucking Tanzania and played with lions. How awesome was that?
That was crazy. You know, it's funny. You always, you go to like Disney and, you go to these like rides and stuff and they're like, making it feel like real adventure, but there's a safety protocol and it's not real. You go to Africa and it's like, wait a second, this is all real. So they had record-setting flooding in the Serengeti. So when we were pulling in there, we were trying to figure out ways to get in. And so there's trucks floating by us. There's people like, I don't know if anyone died because they're used to this kind of craziness, but there was definitely like trucks gone and people swarming in the shore. Like it's nuts, literally nuts. Hey, Jacqueline, how are you? But we had that. And then there was one night we're in this camp and we're in a tent and they said that lions had been walking through the camp recently. So we're asleep. It's like 2 a.m. And Chris, when I tell you this roar just shook my belly, it was within feet of our tent. And Kim goes like this. She goes, hold me. So we're just sitting there. We don't talk at all.
She said, hold me?
Pretty much hold me. Yeah. She said, like,
she wanted you to get eaten first. That's fucked up.
I mean, whatever. Like,
we should talk about that's therapy stuff right there. I want you to get eaten first.
No, we already talked about that. I volunteered to get eaten first. But I'll tell you, once you look a lion in the eye, within feet of it, you're kind of re-guessing, like, is that really what I want to do today? But in a nutshell, so what we realized is that lion was calling out to the other lions. They were walking through the camp. They killed a giraffe just seconds from where we were.
Oh, so really?
Yeah.
Wow. And you just literally had a tent, but did you have like a guard that stayed awake all night just in case that lion came through? Or
no, I mean, like here's the reality. Like everyone's like, well, they don't want to eat, there's all the theories. Like they don't want to eat you. You're behind a tent. They don't think you're a person. They stay in the truck. They don't think you're food until they do. And there's always the story. Somebody puts their arm out and like Kruger and somebody gets torn apart by a lion. Like it can always
tries to take a selfie. I'm going to take a selfie with this lion. He's so cute. Oh my God.
So it's very real. It's very beautiful. It's very amazing. So
speaking of lions, this is my Loki. This is my Loki. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to this purr. He's the cutest thing ever. Mwah. Yes. So he's trying to attack my iPad and all sorts of shit on my desk. So yeah. So I'm sure in those kind of moments, you kind of start thinking about life, right, Scott?
Think of life or death, or what is it really? What if I get eaten right now? What's it all about?
What is the meaning of life? If you had to sum it up in as succinctly as possible, and give us a second, what do you think based on your 50 some odd years of being here? I know as I get older, my thoughts on the meaning of life continue to get polished. I think they start off real rough in the beginning. And I think as you go through the life and the tragedies and everything else, everything kind of gets evened out. But what do you think is the meaning of life? What in your terms?
Yeah, I think the meaning of life is we're creating it. So I think it's pretty simple. I think religion, different belief systems, and all these things, I think have been contorted for us to look for a meaning out here. And I think it's pretty simple that like when we think we're given this gift, we're given brilliance, we're given genius, we're giving, things that we have to share. So whatever it is, if we're supposed to be a coach, a doctor, a nurse, a chef, like whatever things we're supposed to do while we're here sharing our brilliance, that's the meaning. I mean, think of this, like you've got pure consciousness, and in that pure consciousness, we spawn into a reality. So all of a sudden there's, a hydrogen atom, a helium atom, and all of a sudden these things keep being built. And here we are, 7.5, 8 billion people. We're all fractals of source. So source literally expanded to say, let's paint this beautiful picture. Let's write this beautiful story. So individually, we're fractals here creating the meaning by painting this picture. And I think so many of us are horrified to say that. We're like, no, the meaning is once I go to heaven. No, the meaning is once I find nirvana. It's all in here. Mm-hmm. And the heaven, everything is in here. And the minute we take a moment to say,
think it's in here, we think it's up in here in our brain, but it really is, like you said, in here. And I think that's that's why I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to make sure people in the beginning of this conversation tonight really kind of see where we're going with this and talking about, think, feel with this, take action with this, not this, because this is only designed to keep you safe and certain and comfortable. And that's a legacy breaker.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I get it. This is a scary world. It's one of these things you choose love over fear. And that's why we preach love all the time. And fear is a really, really big motivator. So when I'm afraid, I've got choices. And most times it seems very easy for me to say, I want to take everything off this plate and just throw the accountability of me painting this picture to, I'll just do everything I have to do for some far off, being. And then you lose accountability. But here's the deal. If something put you here, part of it is within you, and it must be frustrated when you don't recognize that which is within, which is your gifts, your brilliance, the God within, the divine within, the creator within. Like if I'm the one who created all this, which we are, but if I'm the individual that started from the beginning, how frustrating must it be that everybody's going, help me. And you're like, I gave you all the tools, paint the damn picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's really the awakening that's going on, is we're sitting here saying, help. Why me? Poor me. I'm a victim. I love you. No. Look in the mirror and say, I love you. I see you divine within me. I know that I was created from all this, and I'm going to paint this beautiful picture. There's your meaning. There is no meaning. The meaning is you creating the meaning. And that might sound scary. That might sound horrifying. People might want to argue that.
Overly simplistic.
Yeah. But here's the deal. What do you want the meaning to be? That's a better question. What do you want to say that I'm just doing all this as some test so I can go to some heaven? Like, what is this? My test to go to heaven? And then what?
So what did you think the meaning of life was when you were younger? Because that's what I asked myself when I was thinking about prepping for the show and just thinking about my thoughts. I'm like, okay, the first thing I think is that my meaning of life has evolved as I've been through the journeys, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even my teen years. What's the meaning of life? Survival was initially my thing. Like, that's the meaning of life, is you should fucking survive. You keep your mouth shut. You don't get beat up. And then the next thing was like, okay, let's get stability. The next thing was abundance. And then, okay, abundance isn't solving my issues, if you will. Then what's the next thing? And finding that meaning. And that's where I found that deeper meaning and creating my legacy and being able to say, okay, this is why I'm here. My bigger why is why I'm here. And that allows me to find that meaning in those moments where I want to give up and I want to be mad and I want to go back to, I want to be like everybody else, And so what do you think, young Scott, in his early 20s, perhaps, the ego Scott, what do you think your meaning of life was there? And then how did that shift?
Oh, it was a more mentality, because that's what you're taught.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I have this, it's funny that we're asking this question, because I had a conversation today. I'll bring this in, and I think it's going to resonate with you too, from maybe a similar but different angle. So we've got these, people who are here before us. A lion is born, okay? And the lion is instantly a lion. Yeah, it does little baby lion stuff for a few minutes, and then it eats its first kill and goes, I'm going to take one out. And then it's a lion, but it's really quick. We've got 18 years of becoming whatever we are. So we're like, mommy, daddy, teacher, friend, and we're trying to figure out what is it supposed to be. So long before we can really figure out meaning, we got to figure out what the hell's going on in this present moment. To your point, you were saying survival. So one of the things somebody brought up today, because I was coaching somebody, and we were talking about like where you created this sense of lack of self-love. And very unintentionally, my mom did an amazing job at making me feel loved, but I want to share something with you and bring you to this point. Sure. So my mom would sacrifice, say, hey, we don't have enough money for both of us to get pants, so I'll get you pants. We don't have enough money to have a lot of food, so what do you want to eat for food? So it was always about me. But what was the lesson that I was learning from that, Chris? I'm learning always do something for somebody else and don't take care of self. Is that me? And exactly it. It's like I'm always like, let's do this without taking care of self. So to your point, I think for me, the meaning of life was like, how can I help this person? How can I help this person? How can I help this person? What's up, John Gee? But you get to that space where one day I'm sitting there going, all I've been doing is all these things for somebody else, and I just feel depleted, and I feel like there's nothing here. And so let's talk about that, because I know that I don't think a lot of people even get to the point of what is the meaning of life. They're struggling so much to get even through the moment because we don't love ourselves to fill our cup. And you'll
Mhm.
never see the divine within you if you don't love yourself enough to recognize it. So jump
Amen.
on that and tell me more about that.
Amen. No, I love that. I love that setup. Thanks. No, I think about it in terms of, I always try to keep things as simple as I possibly can and then expand on it. Somebody had said one time, we are human beings, not human
Yeah.
doings. But yet, what do we fill our day with? Doing, 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 doing. I have to go do this. I have to 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 do this. Based on what? Based on the expectations of who? Okay, why do we allow those expectations to override, like you said, that self-love component? What do we do that? Oh, because back in when we were kids, that 0 to 5 conditioning, when we were little boys and little girls, and we made these agreements in our brain that said, oh, here's my value, here's my worth, here's my belief system, right? As little kids, like you did, and all kids do this, they see the incongruency of, okay, do as I say, not as I do. And that hypocrisy starts to build on itself. And that's where we start to have question and have doubt in our own beliefs. What am I supposed to believe? Okay, I know what they want me to believe. I had this thing happen to me a long time ago. I went to in the auto parts store to buy some motor oil, and the guy says, what brand do you use? And I said, always Castrol GTX. And I stopped myself. I was in my early 20s, and I'm like, why do I always say that? Oh, because my mom said a Castrol GTX is always the best motor oil. And I'm like, you know what? Give me Valvoline. Oh, fucking motor oil is motor oil. But I just stopped myself in that moment because I was like, okay, why is it that I have to have Castrol? Yeah, it's good motor oil, but let me break that cycle of that belief of, okay, I have to have that preconceived notion of, okay, I do this because my mom does that. In order, if I do that subconsciously, perhaps I'm getting that validation because we're more alike than different. And so when I started catching that, it was important for me to realize the component of, we get to make the choice. Ultimately, when you drill back down to the root, is we get to make the choice. Like Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and he talks about that. You could take everything away from me, every single thing away from me, but you cannot take away my ability to choose how I'm going to feel in this moment, what I'm going to focus on in this moment. And I think that's the key thing for everybody listening and watching, is to realize that it's up to you. It's not, nobody's going to come save you. There's going to be nobody, white hell horse and, coming in. You have to do it for yourself. And it has to start with that imperfect action every single day, because if you let fear or perfection override everything else, then you're going to stay complacent, you're going to stay comfy, but you're going to wind up miserable, and you're going to wind up with regrets later on. And so when I think about the why factor, it really is, like you said, Scott, it's about that self-love component. And then the second thing I think that it really is about, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is that I believe the meaning of life is that, and I back it up for a second. I'm like, why are we here? And then I think of gifts. Okay, we're here because each one of us has a very unique talent, a very unique uniqueness about ourselves that is not replicated in anybody else. Although we are more the same than we are different, I believe that everybody is here to share that gift. And within sharing that gift, there are lessons that we continue to learn as a spiritual being, have this human experience. Here's me talking spiritual, and being able to really kind of put the two together and realize that, I'm here to experience life. I'm here to live life, not just to look at it. And I'm also here to experience these lessons that I need to have in order for my spirit to move on, to have that inner peace. I've heard if we don't get the lessons in this lifetime, we have to come back and repeat them again. And so I think the meaning of life is to share our gifts, to learn our lessons, and to make the world just a little bit better for who we are and what we did, and then leave it to the next generation.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think it's much more crazy than what you're saying. And again, like, to simplify it, if we're one source, or one being, or one creator, okay, and then we, have a big bang, or you have, expansion of that, or you can call it breath, like the expansion of breath, and there's 8 billion people. Every one of us has a very specific brilliance derived from the divine. Because if there's one being, then we're a derivative of that. So whatever my brilliance is might be similar to yours or somebody else's, but I think one of the things that's happened on this planet is we're so hyper focused on the more, to your point of human being, human doing, all these things that we want to do. But what about if we just be the best that we can be, and we find that brilliance, which I'm always saying, I empower those who are struggling and or have lost hope to find their brilliance when ready, and share it with the world. So when we find that brilliance and we start sharing it, the world is literally going to become like, imagine this. Imagine if we're this black and white picture that's really cool, but not alive. And then the
Right.
brilliance comes in and we start painting it with our little paintbrush, our brilliance. This whole place is just going to light up like we've never seen before.
Like mushrooms.
Like mushrooms. But, but
I don't know. I'm just saying for a friend.
But here's a way to look at it. Like, think of this. So we've got the 4 brain waves that we always, 5 brain waves, 4 brain waves we always talk about. So we're talking about beta, alpha, theta, and delta. So beta being our wake and stress moments, which it's alert moments. It doesn't need to be just stress. It's just our alert moments. Alpha is that light meditative state that we can get from, quick breath work or meditation. And then theta right before bed, or, when we're being in a hypnotic state, we can really reprogram the subconscious mind, delta being sleeping. What's happened in this world is we've stayed in such a high beta state, a stress state for so long.
Yeah.
That's when we don't grow, we don't learn. We're literally just like this. We're always like, whoa, what's that? So the amygdala is firing. We're in this fight or flight place. The minute we start calling what I call beta breaks, or we step in alpha, we utilize breath work, we meditate, we stop and smell the roses, we laugh, we connect with somebody else. That's when all of a sudden the brilliance is going to show up. We're going to start to see the world in color. Everything's going to slow down. We become human beings, not human doings. But everybody has to take an active effort in that. Because right now, I'm a teacher. I'm sitting in school. Kids are lined up. They come in nervous. Is this teacher going to be hard? Am I going to graduate this year? Am I going to do okay? And then they meet me and they're like, oh my God, this is a breath of fresh air. Because I teach them this stuff. But they're horrified. They come in like, how hard is this teacher to be? How do I have to manipulate the situation? What do I have to do to get an A?
How can I fit in?
Yeah, but it's bullshit. Like, they're coming in here to learn and love and fall in love with this learning process. And they come in literally nervous. It's like, why are you coming into a growth opportunity nervous? So we've set this structure up that sucks. The institution of education in our country sucks. And so I'm sitting here saying, Chris, you got to laugh like when you're in one of my classes. These kids are coming in to learn business, and I have them take breath work. We're doing 4-7-8 breathing. We're doing some conscious breathing, and then they're like zoned out. And I'm like, how do you feel now? And they're like, I feel good. I go, you guys ready to
high on miles supply, baby. High on miles supply.
And they're laughing, Chris, and they're like, and now they're like, I don't know what you're doing to me, but I love being here. I go, well, this is what learning should have been like in the beginning. And what happens, the reason that kids are so good at learning is they're constantly taking shifts from between beta and alpha. They're laughing. Laughter kickstarts alpha. So they're laughing, they're looking around, curiosity, wonderment, crashing into fences with their big wheels, throwing paint off the wall, getting yelled at, and everything's funny. And everyone's like, why can kids learn so much? And they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks because we forgot to slide into alpha. We stay in beta. You don't learn as well in beta. So
fear.
When we're creating the meaning in this existence, we've got to be human beings and not just human doings. So the irony is, we think we've got to do all this to create meaning. We've just got to be the best version of ourselves. And that's where the meaning is going to come from.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, I want to get a couple of these comments. Jacqueline Rose is chiming in. She says, you have to do a lot of soul searching to find the meaning of life. That is true. That is true. And that requires us to be quiet and silent. And that's, something that I wanted to bring up in this conversation as well. As so often, like you said, we're in the act of doing. We're in the act of pleasing, the people pleasing aspect of life. We get caught up in the minutia. We get caught up in the cycle of how can I stay comfortable? Now I can order my food in, I can order my groceries in, all these different things. I can be lazy as hell. I'm reading this book called The Comfort Crisis. And in that book, it talks about the fact that we're wired to be out there and hunter gatherers and to fight or flight. We're out there to have our systems engaged, not sit here and be like climate control everything. Oh my God, I never get out of 72 degrees for my entire life. Oh, it's hot outside. I can't go outside. I'm going to melt. Oh, I hear people all the time, I can't work out when it's hot. I'm like, the fuck you can't. You just go outside and work out. You sweat more. No big deal. Oh, you don't give me your stupid excuses. If you want to sit there and bitch about your life, then, stay comfortable and see what happens. But thank you. Yeah, Jacqueline. I think the soul searching is something that has to be happening when, you get away. Like I used to go on those 10-day sabbaticals and just really be quiet with myself and just like allow my thoughts to be natural and to be honest and be like, okay, let me go explore that. Is there, instead of sometimes we shoo those thoughts away. Like, I don't want to think about the fact, is my marriage going to end? I don't want to think about the fact that, I might be in a dead end job and this is going to be the last thing that I can do. Otherwise I'm not going to make enough money. We all have those thoughts. It's just a matter of what it is that we can do to separate ourselves from those thoughts, get back to that meaning of finding that deeper meaning in life. And I think that's the thing, is that when you think about the end in mind, and work backwards. That's where I come back to that fact, like, what's that legacy you're building? And I took a couple of notes, thinking about this. And for me, the meaning of life is realizing it's not someday. You've heard me say the someday thing. The meaning of life is not someday when. Mm-hmm. The meaning of life is it's right now. And and I thought about that phrase, live every day like it's your last. All of us have had those conversations. Like, is that really the way we should be doing it? And I sat there and I pondered it for a second, thinking about this episode tonight. And I was like, what do you think about that? Do you think we should live every day like if I knew I was going to die tomorrow, I would probably fucking go bananas. So there's got to be some realism in there. And that's where the conversation kind of goes, well, we should do this. We should do this. I don't know. I think we should, because I could drop dead in 20 minutes. There's no guarantee we're going to get tomorrow. So I think the meaning of life is to just be truly in those moments with the people that we're with, creating that. If that's the last moment that they have, that's a good moment. And if we live that way for the rest of our lives, then I think we find that the meaning of life is just to really sit here and enjoy it and embrace the journey. Look at the hard stuff and say, hey, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Because I've survived 100% of the stuff I've been through, and enjoy my moments. And if I want to get active in something and if I want to complain about it, I want to make a change about it. If not, I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to try to make this world a better place, so that ultimately I'm remembered for, like, oh, remember Sue, remember David, they were such good people. That's, at least for me, that's what gives me that feel for finding that meaning in life, and just to be present.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you bring up a good point where you're saying, like, living like every day is, your last day. So I'll give you a quick analogy that kind of pops into my mind. Imagine, you're somebody who's running marathons. You don't run, 7-minute miles and then at the end try to run 450 miles if you're a pro marathon runner. You're running consistently like 5-minute miles, like all across. It's very consistent. And so the whole point is, I think it's the same thing with, once you recognize it's not, I think that we have the tendency to think, like, if I was going to die tomorrow, I'd be crazy because we haven't done it right. So it's kind of like we haven't run, our perfect race. So then, like, I'm going to haul ass this last, because I'm going to try to catch up.
Right.
So I would
not remember it anyway, or whatever.
But that's the thing. I think we're thinking, oh, if this is the last minute, I'm going to go do something I haven't done, or something stupid. Like, I'm going to live in the moment, not so much. I'm sorry, I'm going to live for the moment instead of in the moment. So I'm going to live like for this one moment. But what about this? What about if every single moment I say this could be my last? So I'm so present. So what's the difference? I'm running 5-minute miles the whole race. I'm so present. I'm enjoying the cadence. I'm so blessed that I have legs. I cannot believe I'm a professional marathon runner. I'm enjoying every moment, versus, holy shit, I haven't run my best race. Here I go now. So what could it look like if I'm saying, wow, this is really crazy that this is my own studio. We own this house. I have a beautiful wife and daughter. We're going to watch a movie after this. We just had a great dinner. This is a really nice life. This is heavenly. So there's nothing that I'm seeking, because in this present moment, I have everything I could ever want. And I'm excited for each and every day that I can bring more of a high vibration to other people, and a high frequency, a love frequency to others, or a frequency of authenticity, which we've talked about. But yeah, I think that we get stuck so many times thinking that living in the moment and living for the moment are the same things. And we want to live in the moment, but not for that moment. We want to look at every day as like, wow, this could be my last. So I want to connect. I want to be kind. I want to be a good person. All the things that we would say about our best friend, be that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I told Jackson the other night. I said, you want to know, we were talking about religion. And he goes, what religion are you, Dad? And I said, I'm really not a religion. I said, if I had to classify, I said, probably it's Buddhism. Because I told my wife, for his Cub, that's what it was. It was the Cub Scouts thing. We have to go do something for God. And I said, well, why don't we take him to this Buddhist temple that's really beautiful? It's probably about, 40 minutes away. A couple of my friends took me there and I just exposed me to it. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, what is it all about? And that's what they basically said, just do unto others. Right. Just the golden rule. Go out there, be a good person, go out there and make the world a positive place. Go out there and make your change, do what you have to do, share your gifts. And I think that's pretty incredible, because I want to just grab this question right here from Jacqueline. It's a very deep question. I'm gonna let you go first. She says, the one thing I'd like to know is, how come God takes all the good people but doesn't take the bad people? That's a tough question. That's a tough question. What do you think, Scott?
That's a great question. And everyone's going to give you, in my opinion, a bullshit answer coming from their experience. But I would say this: first of all, you're heavily labeling, saying takes all the good people but doesn't take the bad people. Yeah, you're just looking in your own life, and I agree. There's plenty of good people, Mike. Why did they go? So I see anecdotally where you're coming from, And I think a lot of us have lost a very good person. We're like, that's bullshit. Why didn't I lose that jerk uncle? I would say this is a world that I mean, we've chosen to come here for whatever reasons, for lessons. And I always talk about what I'd call positive angels or negative angels. They're the same. They're angels. So let's say where I am right now in my family, in my lineage, there's a point where a lesson needs to be learned. And if we haven't learned it softly, maybe somebody has to come into our life to teach us by showing us what not to do.
That's a big one right there. Say that again, because I think that's magic right there.
Yeah, and we all need to see it. So sometimes we think this person's not an angel, they're our biggest nightmare, but somebody teaches you what not to do. So it might be the person who's a liar, who's dishonest, who's whatever. You might need to look at that and go, holy shit, that's what, like, I don't want to become that. So you become a better person in spite of it instead of because of it. So what I would ask you guys to start thinking about is maybe those people who came into our lives who are the good people, we got that lesson right away. We're like, oh, that's exactly who I want to be. So they can move on. But we're sitting here saying, this person's bad, this person's bad, whatever. Maybe they're trying to get us to be aware of the potential for, am I sometimes dishonest? Am I always the best person? Could I be a worse person if I didn't have this person reminding me what bad looked like? So what I would ask yourself is, be the best version of self. Those who might have been here for a brief time, who were amazing human beings, just become them. You know, Chris and I, we have people write eulogies in our coaching practice. And one of the things I always tell people is, and I'm giving away some of the program, but there's a good way to do this. So many times when people want to write a eulogy, they want to write all the things that they supposedly were. I was a coach, I was a teacher, I was a great dad, I was a wonderful husband. Like, who gives a shit? And I don't mean that in a bad way. Right. Those are little roles we play in this world. But what is it that lives on forever? So I would say,
what are the nuggets? What are the nuggets? Like, oh yeah, I remember Scott used to always say, "Go love now." You know, like he's always promoting love. Chris,
it's verbs and adjectives and things that live up. So when you're around Scott, what do you feel like? I feel energized. I feel he's funny. He's kind. Like you want to feel those things. So what I would say to Jacqueline in this instance is, without worrying about why people are coming and going, those people who have gone, who are badass, make them live on forever by recalling their greatness. They were the best listener. They were always so sweet to me. They always put time, for me, whatever. Like, become those things, and then that person never dies.
Carry that legacy on. I mean, that's massively important. That's one thing that got me through when Tiffany died, my ex-wife's little sister. I used to call her my little sister. She died at 33 suddenly, and I was coaching her at the time. And when I was driving home, I was trying to think, like, I was mad and I just wanted to go home and drink and get drunk and be pissed at God and everything. I'm like, how could you take this young lady who just had a 3-year-old? The 3-year-old found her dead.
It is fucked up. I mean, any way you look at it, it's still
just all messed up. And I thought, I'm going to go home and get messed up and smoke a pack of cigarettes and whatever. This is back in my early 30s or late 30s, actually. God, I was, and instead, all of a sudden I looked over at the passenger seat and it was empty. And I was sitting in bumper to bumper traffic, being mad and pontificating. Fuck, why? Exactly. Asking that question, Jacqueline, like, why? Why? This is bullshit. And I look over at the empty seat and I thought, if Tiffany were sitting next to me, what would she say? If Tiffany were sitting next to me right now, what would she say? Would she say, yeah, Chris, go home and get drunk and smoke cigarettes and be mad at I'm in a better place. God needed me to go do something else. My spirit was done here. I did what I needed to do. I brought a child into this world so that Tammy could be a parent. It's my time to go do something else. My lessons are learned. I came here to do a gift and give you guys a gift. That's what I did. Now it's my time to move on. And I thought about that. And we get to choose, guys. When you're listening to this, think about this. I get to choose. I get to choose what I focus on. I get to choose what I think about. And I sat there and I stared at that empty seat for a while as I just went in traffic. And I was like having this imaginary conversation, thinking about Tiffany would want me to go home and write a poem. She would want me to go home and maybe call somebody I haven't talked to in a while that I've been thinking about. And like, oh yeah, I got to call that person. She'd want me to go for a walk and enjoy nature. She would want me to go write some music or listen to some music. And so if we live in the legacy of those that have passed, maybe too early, then that's more of a gift for us to act as if, because we have that spirit within us. The guy that mentored me, Bill White, he came into the world. He had his kids, one of them which was Tiffany, the other one was Tammy, my ex-wife. He came into the world to tell me, hey, Chris, You're not going to be a 7th grade homeless dropout for the rest of your life unless you believe you are. He goes, but if you want to go back to school, get your GED, go to college, change things. Don't live in that pattern of what you believe is your destiny, because you can change at any time. Is it going to be easy? No. And so he came here, he did his thing, and then he exited. And so, Jacqueline, that's the way I look at it. I look at it as the evil people, the quote unquote bad people. They're still here to learn their lessons, but they're also here to teach us lessons, because when we look back on our life, we realize that we don't learn much when things are easy, when we're cruising and everything. Oh yeah, I got good money. We learn things when things are challenging. And when we look back on our life, we're thankful for those things that were challenging, because they made us the sharp people that we are today. It made us the kick-ass Irish person that you are, who's unstoppable. And so I look at it as it's a blessing that I got to have them in my life. And then I act as if, and then I honor them. And then I wish all the other people in the world that are not so great, I wish them well in their own particular journey, because they need to learn something too. And I go back to them, and I think if I'd gone through what they went through, perhaps as children, might I have been fucked up too? Sure. So it gave me an opportunity for that. So thank you, Jacqueline, for that question. We appreciate it. Robert says here, the earth was not created to be fair. It is logical that he takes the good people, isn't it? Yes, absolutely. Jean Guy, what's up, Jean Guy from Canada? He says, we are always learning and making mistakes, but what will be the true lesson that will nail it all? How have you guys learned that lesson yet? Oh yeah, what do you think about that one, Scott?
I'm trying to process what he's saying. So we're all learning and making mistakes, but what will the true lesson? I'm not sure what he's asking. Sorry, have you guys learned that lesson? So the one lesson.
I think he's asking, like, for me, if I think about that question, the big lesson that I've learned is to be authentic. You mentioned the word earlier. It's funny. That's one of my notes. I came up with 3 notes that I wanted to make sure I got through tonight. One of them was to be in the moment. The other one was to be authentic. The last one's to have integrity and help others, which we've kind of talked about. But that authenticity standpoint for me, Jean-Guy, out of everything I've achieved in my life, all the financial success, the validation of being a great speaker, all this different stuff, all these great things in my life, the biggest lesson and the thing that I'm happiest knowing is that I was that people pleaser. I was that person that wore the suit and tie. I was that person that, okay, if I'm prescriptively this person for that person, I'll get the success. If I'm prescriptively this person for that pretty girl, I'll land the date. If I'm this way with this person, I'm going to get a good deal. And then realizing at the end of the day, I didn't even know who I was anymore. So the big lesson for me in life was to just be me. As crazy as it sounds, we go through all these different things. We're taught as kids, again, that belief system. Oh, you got to get a good job. You got to do this. 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 Or I'll be upset. Or I won't have as much love for you, because as kids, they take the love away if we do something wrong. So we're conditioned that they're like, okay, if as long as I don't fail, I still have my parents' love. And how many people are fucked up in the world right now because they're still thinking about daddy's love or mama's love? And if we could rewrite those prescriptive beliefs, because it's just dry erase. It's just dry erase. Okay, now I can sit there and see from a different viewpoint. My parents were raised in a time where negative conditioning worked. Nobody's going to love you if you're fat. Oh my God, I better not be fat. That worked. And then it doesn't work. And so those people didn't even know that. So they were just there. How do you punish your child? Oh, I tell them that fucking God's going to come and kill him. Okay, wow, that seems to work. Let me tell my kid that. So I think for me, the big lesson is just to be naturally me, be honest, so you don't have to hide stuff. And the inner peace and the relationships and the impact that I've had from doing that has been exponential. So for me, it's being authentic. So that's the way I see the question. Like, what's that big lesson you learned?
So your answer, actually, I love, and I talked to you about this, I think. One of the things that I've been studying is like frequencies a lot. And so supposedly the highest frequency on the planet is authenticity. And there's a whole study that you guys can Google and check out where it talks about. No, you want to take a look at this. So this guy brought a bunch of people together, and what they did was they put them in a room that didn't have like any frequencies, any 5G, any kind of frequencies coming in. So the frequencies are only coming from the people. And so they could literally figure out this person's in a state of disgust, this person's in a state of deep guilt, deep shame. They were seeing like what emotions and what's being emitted. And it's interesting because I would have thought that the highest frequency that everybody would want to achieve would be a space of love. But what it was authenticity is actually, I think it's four times more powerful.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
So think about this though, because I was really thinking about it, and we said it here today. If we're supposed to be here creating meaning, so then we have a specific brilliance, which is delivered by source, creator, universe, God, and it's in us. So when we're sitting here saying, please help, I'm not good enough, I can't, please please do something for me, we're actually denying the will of that which has given us these gifts. So the authenticity,
that's a great point.
The authenticity is removing all the masks and sitting here and going, I trust my intuition. Yeah, coaches are important because they can help me look more closely, mirrors, partners who support me. But at the end of the day, outside of all of us who are here supporting you, trusting what's inside. So not here. This is the confused, receptor of all the bullshit that's going on.
The antennas are like, where's the trouble? Where's the trouble? Where's the trouble?
Use this as a human to, process the info, but process it from your heart. So like in this present moment, I'm sitting here, thinking, like, as my authentic self, how blessed am I that I have come to the realization that coaching people, being a teacher, changing the way things are done in traditional educational institutions, being authentic day in and day out. And when I catch myself being inauthentic, laughing at it and just leaning into authenticity. So that vibration rises up. So when I'm holding, this paintbrush and I've got this beautiful palette, creating meaning becomes very easy because what? It's derived straight from source. It's not this egoic version of me going, look at me, I'm painter guy. No, it's me going, thank you, source. Thank you, God. Thank you, universal creator, for giving me this gift. I'm going to paint right from you, right from me. And so I don't know why we're so scared of that as people. We always want to look externally instead of looking inside and saying like, wow, like I'm so blessed. So I think Chris nailed it. I think John Goyette asked a great question that I didn't initially understand. But I think authenticity would be a flawless answer for that. Because if we can achieve authenticity by trusting our intuition, then we're geared up to really do a good job at creating meaning.
Yeah, that is great. And thank you, John Goyette, for that question. He goes on to say, it took the PTSD to make me learn that I won't be here forever. And if I want things to change, then I have to do it. I'm responsible for my own progress. 1,000%. I call it the R word. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, the R word, responsibility. If it took you 30 fucking years to get in the situation, it might take you a little bit of time to get out of the situation. Everybody wants that overnight, solution. Oh, I'm going to go overnight and get my face lifted so I look 30 years younger overnight or whatever it might be. Yeah. It's like, you're going to have to go through that process. That's why I talk about, what doesn't kill you always makes you stronger. And I always think that the fucking Kelly Clarkson song, actually just played the other day. So I got it still in my head. But truly, when you sit there and look at it, like, what am I supposed to be learning and be excited about that, right? Be excited about this process that I get to go through and I'm blessed to experience, because the alternative is you could be dead or you could be dying, and we're all dying. I mean, essentially, I put a post out the other day that's gotten a bunch of people that have private messaged me about the fact that we're going to die one day. Like, literally, you don't get someday, you get today. You get today to be you. And that's the gift that we get to be here. But so many people are being something that they're not in order to get the validation from people who are being fake themselves. And that ridiculous cycle of insanity has got to be broken. And I mean, I know it's our intention, yours and mine, and a lot of people that we know to break that cycle through love, right? And you said it before, like the lens of love or the lens of fear. And so I think for strategies that we can leave people with tonight, one of those is just for yourself. When you're looking at a situation at your job, am I looking at it through a lens of love or a lens of fear? What do you mean, Chris? I have to have my job. I have to pay my bills. Okay. So you're looking at it as a form of scarcity, that if you don't have this job, you're not gonna be able to pay your bills. But what happens if you start investing your time and your energy into learning a new skill or a new trade? Or what is it, if the possibility, if you go look for a different job, it might not have the same stressors that you're currently experiencing right now. But so many people just sit there and stay in that same spot because of that comfortability factor. It's like, oh, well, it's safe and it's certain, it's predictable. I know what to expect. A known evil is better than an unknown evil, whatever the fuck, everybody, all these cliches that we can come up with. But the fact is, if you're living in that moment and you're aspiring to be not like, a part of your thoughts, like, the minutia that Michael Singer talks about in the Surrender Experiment and the Untethered Soul, like that for me was a visual. Like, he goes, you're not your thoughts. He goes, you could step away from those and look at them and go, fuck, those are really crazy. Those are weird. Okay, now back to the regular scheduled program. What was I focusing on? And see, those, like swatting, he calls them mosquitoes, I think it is. Sometimes they're just swatting mosquitoes, okay, wow. And I did that the other day. I had sometimes I get these weird, dark thoughts that just pop into my brain out of nowhere. I have no idea. I sat there and tried to analyze where they come from, but I can't even figure it out. But every once in a while, I just go, oh, that's a mosquito. And then I'm like, okay, I was working on my podcast. Oh, okay. And I just go back to it. Whereas before I'd be like, okay, what's that? And what does that mean? Now it's a mosquito. And so I think if we all just take a look at the mosquitoes in our life, those tolerations, those things we're tolerating, when we have that clear vision of who it is that we want to become, and then we stop tolerating some of that bullshit from ourselves, the excuses, I don't have enough time. There's 24 hours a day. We all get the same amount of time. How is Elon Musk so much more successful than anybody else? It's how you use that time. It's how you manage that time. And sometimes you have to delegate things. And sometimes you have to sacrifice things. Sometimes you can't watch a whole season of a fucking Netflix show in one night. Maybe perhaps you read a book. Hey, you know what? I'm going to read a chapter every night, and then I'm going to watch my TV show. And then I'm going to apply the things that I learned in my chapter, and I'm going to watch my success change and grow over a period of time. But I think so many people just get stuck in that lens of that fear, that scarcity mindset, as opposed to like transitioning and saying, how can I look at it from a lens of love? How can I look at it that I'm, blessed to have this particular job? And if I didn't have this job tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to take care of my kids. So I'm thankful for the job that I may be frustrated with, but what am I doing to be a part of the solution to fix that? You know what I'm saying? What do you think about that? That the fear aspect of how people get held back, and just to shift their perspective and realize this is all part of the gig that I signed up for.
So you just gave a perfect handoff to like finish the show on, actually, because what you're talking about is exactly all of us. All right, we're sitting here in this world. Yeah. If we have yet to remove the masks, and listen, like, give yourself grace. Like, we've been wearing these masks as survival masks, and they've actually maybe even helped us thrive to an extent, but we're still be hiding behind our authentic self, like all of us, me included, Chris included. To an extent, we can find some version of authenticity, but pure authenticity would be pure. You'd know it. Like, we're not there yet, and that's okay. But what I want you guys to think about is when we're watching Netflix, when we go play basketball, when we do these things, not so much just because they're fun, but as distractions to keep ourselves busy, because we need moments to escape, because our authentic self feels hollow, then that just means we're not there yet. So here's a question for you guys. And I actually had it, I'm going through coaching clients right now in my head too. And I'm like thinking of the emails and texts I've gotten today. So somebody just texted me and they said, I'm really loving the meditations, but I keep noticing that I have a breakthrough and then I want to have a few drinks. And they're like, and I'm like, man, that makes so much sense, because you start to break through and you get clarity, but you see your true self and you get what? A little bit scared. So you're like, I'm going to go have a drink and just chill out, because that's your natural defense mechanism against everything when you need a break.
Yep.
So maybe your break is like, right now, it's Friday. Shit, I put so much effort in. I'm going to watch 5 Netflix shows. And we just say, oh, I deserve it. It's a break. But it's still an attempted escape. And now here's the thing. How can we find the balance with this? How can we max out our brilliance and find our brilliance? How can we remove the masks? But still, like, I'm not even positive how this works yet, because I'm still using things to escape. I want to go have, things to hide from this world for a moment. They're not the crazy things I did at 15, 20, 30, but there's still a glass of wine or whatever it is, or a movie or something. So what I would say is really, really hyper focus on what it looks like to find your authentic self, your brilliance. And part of it is going to be getting naked, getting uncomfortable, pulling off the mask, feeling kind of uncomfortable for a bit. And maybe, you hear like a lot of people talk about, why can't we let kids be bored anymore? Because that boredom does what? It gives you an opportunity to find your true self, your authentic self, and creative and build. Let's put our wise older self into a space with the curiosity and wisdom of our child, but now with some wisdom, and let's allow ourselves to be bored for a moment. Maybe on a Friday night, instead of like taking time, maybe you just sit, and maybe you don't even read. Maybe you just sit and think.
Yeah, imagine that. Oh my God, that's why that book's called Think and Grow Rich.
So maybe you just sit and think. Maybe you're jotting on paper. Maybe certain words come to you. The word create and divine come to you. Like, what does that mean? You're like, I want to access the divine within and create something. What do you want to create? I don't know. I like helping people. Help. What does helping people look like? And all of a sudden, something comes to mind, and you start building something from your brilliance. And like, where's this coming from? So you might have literally just shut down your actual truth. Maybe mom and dad said, art's not something that makes you money. Being creative doesn't make you money. You need to be an accountant. So your whole life you've been an accountant, saying, this is who I am. And there's this side of you saying, pick me, help me come out. And suddenly you access it because you stop for a moment. So I would beg each and every one of you to offer the opportunity yourself to be bored, think, sit, be be that human being. Don't do something for a moment, and don't run away from what's inside of you. It might be scary for a moment. It might be scary for 2 moments, but I'll bet you anything, if you just sit with that, you're going to be mind blown in time, because you have a divine creator sitting within you that's begging to come out of you, begging, because everybody has the same access to the divine creator right inside here, and there's brilliance waiting to surface. So if you've yet to find it, please find it, because the universe, the world wants you to find it and needs you.
Amen, man. I put a bow on that one. Absolutely. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's the fact of being intentional, right? I think that's I always think about, as we're ending the show, like, what is the overarching theme that we've talked about? And one of them is like, the ability for us to control our thoughts and to really control the chaos that's going on inside, but also, to be able to, Patricia just says Scott is on a roll. What's up, Patricia? Good to see you, sweetheart. Thank you for being here. She said here as well, she goes, good evening, Chris and Scott, just checking in, and you are always encouraging. Thank you, my dear. We appreciate you. But yeah, I mean, I think it's ultimately the fact of that intention to not stay the same. And I was talking to somebody the other day, they were having a problem with the hero's journey kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, I'm sick and tired of having to go through this stuff and everything else. And I'm like, you're going to continue to be sick and tired, because as long as you continue to elevate your success, and as you continue to open your mind to new opportunities, the people who stay stagnant and stay the same, they're not going to be in your same radar, right? Because you're going to continue to surround yourself with more people that are doing the things that you want to do. And I think that's important, because so oftentimes we hang around the people that make us feel better, or the people that, we can commiserate with, misery loves company, that kind of stuff. God, we have so many cliches in the show tonight. It's funny. It should be the cliche show. But ultimately, getting back to the root of everything is like, having that why of what our legacy is, living true to our purpose and to who we are naturally, and sharing those gifts. I think that's one of the most criminal things about life, is that so many talented people, you hear about the janitor that fucking could play, Chopin and Mozart and Beethoven. You see, England's Got Talent. And you see somebody, who's not attractive, and I can't remember her name, but she sings, beautifully. And all these people with their talents and their gifts inside, never to be seen or heard by the rest of the world, is, for me, that's the definition of not living your life. I don't know.
And I don't blame those people, dude. I don't blame those people. I blame society, and I don't even blame, like, I think it's a mistake in how we've lived as humans for a long time, and we're awakening to fix that. And even just recognizing that, and having these shows where these people pop up, or somebody finds an opportunity, even if they're just trying to make money off of them, at least those people are finally getting out there. Like, we're going to see more and more of this, and we're going to see the world wake up, and it's happening. But you're right. It's sad to think that so many people have gone through the cycle of a lifetime and have never gotten to share their gifts, because of the way this world has been set up. And that's the point of the meaning thing we're saying. We've got this beautiful canvas, and we've got this palette, and somebody told us, you don't know how to paint. And you just went and you walked through your whole life with this palette and a canvas in front of you going, I don't know how to paint. And that's bullshit. You were given the tools and you were lied to. So wake up, because we need your brilliance. There's no one listening. There's no one that will ever hear this. There's no one on this planet that isn't a brilliant individual with something to share. And if you dig deep, you're going to find it. And trust your intuition. Don't listen to Chris. Don't listen to me. Trust your intuition, but don't let anybody ever tell you can't. Because the minute you say you can, you're right. And the minute they tell you can't, you accept it. You're also right. Don't let them be right.
Nope. You got to live on purpose. You got to live on purpose, brother. What a great opportunity for us to reconnect and get back on the saddle, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we're always going to be back from this point forward, back on Friday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Scott and I have decided this year we're going to do a little bit more solo shows. We want to just have these conversations. We want to have them with you. That's one of the things when we really were inspired to do this and take this from the Friday Night Live show that we started during COVID, and do the show, that the intention was to have unfiltered conversations, to be able to sit there and say, hey, like John Gee, thank you for being here. Authenticity. Thank you, Scott Goyette. When we have these conversations with you, the next part for you guys is not just to walk away from this conversation and say, wow, that was really inspiring. Okay, I'm going to go, have a hot fudge sundae or something like that. The best thing you can do from this conversation is to go have another conversation with somebody else, somebody in your house, pick up the phone, send somebody an email, say, I was just listening to these guys. And, through this conversation, I was realizing, if somebody passed away recently, how can I go on and have some sort of positive aspect from it? I learned that I could live in their legacy. Whatever it might be for you from this conversation, carry that on, because this will create ripples. Right? We're throwing stones in a pond and we're creating ripples for you guys to go out there, look at yourselves differently, having these unfiltered conversations. We want you guys to have those unfiltered conversations with yourself and then be honest. But what we want to do for you in this chapter of the Unfiltered Experiences is to have more conversations with you. You guys could do that by going to the unfilteredexperience.com. It's up there on the screen, the unfilteredexperience.com. Join the Facebook community. And if you're going through something, please, even if it's confidential, private, send us a private message. Let us know what you have going on. And then we'll do shows addressing that very topic so that you can start taking action on it. Most likely, if you're experiencing, I could probably say this with absolute certainty, there are other people listening to the show and watching it that are experiencing the same thing. And so our intention with Scott and I is to bring these unfiltered conversations and have you be a part of it. So let us know what it is that we can provide for you. We're going to keep coming here with our own experiences and our own authenticity, because we're on this journey too. We don't have it all figured out. Some people sit there, and I'm sure you get it too, Scott. I had it the other day, like, Chris, you're always somebody from this thing I'm working on saw my Facebook page, like, oh my God, you're so motivational and you're so positive. And I'm like, yeah, you saw me for, 10 minutes. You saw me for an hour. You don't see me the other 23 hours of the day where, I go through my own experiences, and Scott and I have private conversations and we help each other out. Have a community of people in your life that you can communicate to, and be honest with yourself. Again, that unfiltered conversation with yourself. Find somebody you can confide in, because you can't keep it inside, and go out there and start taking that progressive action. Take the tips that we've shared in this episode and all the other 139 episodes that we've done just of this show, and apply those in your life and take that progressive action every single day, and you will see results. And it won't be easy. It won't be comfortable. But at the end of the day, if it were easy, then how would you really enjoy it? And to look back on your journey to say, wow, I fucking kicked some ass. Right? Those are my final thoughts, Mr. Scott. What about you?
I echo that. I trust that. I like that. And I think the thing is, be an authentic individual, keep diving into this game. I mean, there's days where I call Chris and I'm like, well, what is going on this planet? And the reality is there's the micro everything inside, the macro everything outside. And so when the world's going to shit, there might be something going on here and vice versa. And just stop and be aware and figure out what's happening. There's things going on all the world that hurt. There's things inside me that hurt. Just stop for a moment, embrace them, communicate, connect, love. I mean, there's no flawless formula, but I would just look inside and realize that there's divine within you. There's creator within you. There's the ability to heal within you. And there's nothing more beautiful than when we look inside and find the gifts to share them with others. So connect. Chris always talks about, the moments. Connect, love, find your brilliance, enjoy the moments. I mean, that's life. Create the meaning starting right here with what's in your hand, the gifts that you were given. Share those.
Amen, brother. Amen. Jean-Guy says, great show. Thank you, Christopher Rausch and Scott Goyette. Thank you, Jean-Guy, for being here. Appreciate you guys. If you got value out of this, please share that out. We got Michael Baker in the house. What's up, Michael? He says, intentions and actions. Absolutely. 100%. Patricia had said that you were on a roll. Jacqueline said, if you had one day to live, what would you change and why? I'm guessing if you had to live one day over again, what would you change and why? Go for it. I thought it was a comment. I didn't realize it was a question because I didn't say a question.
I mean, I'll just throw something out there real quick. I would be cautious to go back and try to change anything because there's a reason things happen. So I would learn from it, move forward, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yep. That was my answer too. I wouldn't change anything. Yeah. And some of it was pretty fucking brutal, but
I've done some dumbass shit that, like, in theory, of course I want to go back and change, but there's something that put me in that moment to make that decision and some lesson I needed to learn. And here we are. So
Exactly. Hope that helps you, Jacqueline. Let it go. Just like, Jacqueline, you're old enough to understand this. I'm going to give Jacqueline this reference. Go to YouTube right now after we end the show and type in Bob Newhart. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So go there. Do you remember that episode?
Do that.
Do you know that one?
Mm-hmm. Of course I do. Yeah, absolutely. Go do that.
I'm not going to give it away for you guys, but I've had many coaching clients watch that video. It's fucking hysterical.
Absolutely watch it and enjoy it.
Michael Baker says, definiteness of purpose provides direction. 100%. Appreciate it. We got Brian Kelm in the house, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys didn't get a chance to see, Brian was on the Raw and Unscripted show. We had a blast. We had a great conversation. Thank you again, Brian. Brian's blown up all over the place. This is standards we hold ourselves accountable to. Yes. I just have my group coaching clients do that. They're writing down their values. I'm like, okay, what are your values? Do your values align with the decisions you're making? Be very specific and intentional. Have your values written out in front of you and go, does that align with that? If it doesn't, then don't do it. And then it's pretty amazing what starts to happen. You start to change. Michael says, what was that?
It almost seems too simple, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. Michael Baker, again, thank you, brother, for being here. He says, may peace be with and found within you always. That's 100%, dude. That's what I mean. When Scott and I did, you guys should go back and watch it. The last season when we did, the first season we did with Who Am I? The identity. Yeah. Go back and watch that we did a series of shows talking to people about who am I. And through that process, most of the time, like you said, Scott, before, we look at our eulogies. I was a dad. I was this, I was that. And that's kind of how I identify myself for the most part. It's been ebbing and flowing, but through thinking about that show and how we did that in the series, I came back to, like, and I've shared this with you before, I am peace. And so when I find I say that, then there's a physiology change in my brain and my body that says I am. There's that connectedness. The neural pathway says, yes, you are. Your soul goes, yeah, dumb shit, you are. So thank you guys for being here. Yes, Jacqueline says here, she goes, I will say it till the day I die, live and let live, and give peace a chance. Peace. Yeah,
get it again right there. Peace.
That's what we said. Michael says here, he says, going through the pain of suffering builds the endurance to reach the destination you're destined for. Well, perhaps we need Michael Baker on the show. He seems to be a gift of prose here. He says, life is the greatest gift we get to choose, and we are going to live it 100%. So again, you guys have your marching orders. Go to the Unfiltered Experience, go to the Facebook group right now and give us some ideas of what it is you want us to do show topics on. We'll do the show topics. You guys get the results. You guys go out there, make the world a better place. You come back and tell us about it, and booyah. There you have it. And Bob's your uncle. We love you guys. We'll be back here next Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. And of course, go and get us on podcast wherever podcasts are sold. Please go there, support the show, write us a review. We love and appreciate you guys. See you guys next week.